Hello, I'm the Smoking Cheddar, but you probably already knew that. Now, I know recently we've had 3 officers released, and I know typically I release officer reviews very quickly, but I was deliberately waiting for this officer. Now you'll notice that this officer is already level 60 and is already awakened. No, this is not PTS. It's not the public test or private test server. This is actually what I have been waiting for. As you can see, she's in my lineup. I have been very, very eagerly awaiting her arrival. And as always, these officer videos, I will go through the skills, give them a 1 to 5, then I'll give it an overall score and a summary at the end. However, I will just preface by saying that there's a good reason why I've been waiting for this officer, and that is simply put because once she is awakened, we upgrade the tactical skill. Now, she's a versatile field skills officer. What do we know about skills officers? Skills officers deal a lot of skill damage. What do we know about bases? It's the best way to bring bases down is with skill damage. I'm talking in a general base to base AG standard fight sense without using any cheesy mechanics. Skill damage is definitely the way to go. We know that's why Ventura and I make such a great combo and that they can level bases so quickly. And she has skill damage. Now she's also field, which means she gets bonuses for being in field and for attacking units, which means she's also exceptionally good when it comes to attacking units in a form of defense, and that because once she's awakened, she gets a splash damage attack. Now this isn't particularly dangerous in comparison when you have Argent Flame as the captain and Sting of Fist as the aide, where you're doing 25% on top of 25% on top of 600 for your splash attack on 3 targets and effectively one-hitting them. However, if you don't one-hit them and this thing has gone off, you're going to deal 20% max of their HP with a splash attack, which is going to level armies just a significantly bit quicker. So buckle in, because I don't think she's going to end up with a perfect score. She might do. We'll have a little look as we go through. But this is definitely an officer that I would now call a core officer. She's a versatile. If you do not have her in your army, you're going to suffer. So let's just hop right into it, shall we? Make sure you guys have a drink at hand. Make sure your headphones are in or on and that you are sitting comfortably, because we're going to be diving in to what is inevitably going to be an absolutely fantastic officer this week. So we have Lady Shadow. And trust me, she's going to be anything but shadow. She's going to be creating shadows with the explosions on the battlefield. So we'll start from the awakened skill, and we will just quickly look at the tactical skill through this. Everything else that is added onto this just enhances that ever so much. So the tactical skill deals skill damage to an enemy of up to 1800 once you've hit the advancement button. Why wouldn't you? If no enemies are within 1 map grid of this officer's troop, it deals an extra 360. Now, for those of you that can do maths better than me, that's a hefty 2,160 points right there. So she's already in the top percentage for damage output on a skill. Not quite as high as some of the others. I mean, we have, for example, Madame Havoc. It does technically produce slightly more skill damage at the moment, but we haven't gotten to the end of what she's capable of. Now, straight up, This is a 5. It's an 1800. It does a little bit extra, so it comes in at a 4, and we get to give it the extra point for dealing extra skill damage. And 360 does not sound like an incredible amount, but trust me, 360, when you're starting to multiply your firepower and stack that skill damage, is going to make a fantastic bonus. So we'll move on to the second skill, because we'll want to finish on the awakened skill. And we have a damage intensity bonus of 20%. And while the troop is in the field, we get an additional 10%. Now this one I'm a bit iffy on. I'm not sure if this is really a 4 or a 5. I mean, 20% damage intensity is very good, and if we compare it perhaps to another officer that's fairly broken, we do get a damage intensity of just 20% with her. Who else is pretty good with damage intensity? Again, we get a 30% damage intensity bonus with him.
I can do it alone, but it might not end well.
And we don't even make 20 with Warrior Wiz. But this does come under the caveat that you are out in the field. That being said, she does have the field specific tag. Now, I believe last time I reviewed this skill, I actually did in fact review this skill on Frostfire, and I didn't quite take into consideration that it was a field based skill. That being said, I'm pretty confident I gave this a 4, because it would have been nice to maybe have 10% firepower or something else, or maybe slightly higher damage intensity for being out in the field, maybe double it. So I believe I gave it a 4, and in interest of fairness, it's going to have to be a 4. I mean, I'd like to give it a 5 on review, but considering these two officers are fairly close together and both of them are fairly recent, I think that's only fair. Moving on to Covert Connections, the third skill. This is just going to be straight up a 5. We get a normal attack buff of 30%, and we get an officer skill boost of 20%. Both of them are absolutely fantastic any day of the week, and that is before we even get into the fact that you've got them both on a single officer, which should indicate to you how deadly we can make her. So we're just going to straight up give that a 5, and we're going to go through the summary at the end on why all of these are going to be so powerful. Moving on to the fourth skill, it is Deadly Dominance. This is the best balanced skill they've put in so far, at 25% HP and 25% FP. We are getting a huge boost either side of that aisle. There is even if you don't awaken her, this skill alone is worth training to 5 and just slinging it onto a unit. But like I said, she's a core officer now. She should be in your army. You can find a place for, and trust me, I will pump out videos for her, just proving to you how just insane she can be. This, guys, that's a 5. Right, and we're going to move on to the awakened ability. So obviously it upgrades the tactical skill, and you've probably were reading it on the screen back there earlier, or maybe you've been reading it in game. So let's just have a quick discussion as to what it does. What we do get is an extra splash attack. So this is where I was saying she's pretty good in defense as well as offense, as well as out in the field. So calls in an airstrike dealing AoE damage coefficient of 360 up to 3 enemies within 2 map grids of the initial target, and the AoE damage cannot exceed 20% of their total HP. So that should give you an indication that if you stick her on a high FP unit, that this skill right here is capable of one-shotting things like artillery. But obviously when we're dealing splash damage, it's not necessarily about the one-shot, it's about dealing constant damage onto adjacent targets. And if you are running the Argent Fist combo, then it doesn't matter because those boys are going to mop up anyway. But we do want her as the captain on any unit we put forward, especially if we've got Argent Fist in as the aid on his relevant artillery unit, because we want this to pop off first in a defensive scenario, and we want his to pop off second, finishing off the units. Either way, I digress. That is straight up a 5, which unsurprisingly gives her a 4.8, a near perfect score. Now, I have let the cat out the bag slightly in terms of how we can use her. So this officer is a game changer, and before I tell you what I'm going to do with this officer, because I am going to use this officer to extreme prejudice, I'm going to show you how I've used this officer already today, and I want to just reiterate some things to you quickly. Hold on a second. So long-time viewers of the channel will know that I am infantry and artillery. I do not have tech in tanks. I have very little tech in fighters, and the tech that I do have in fighters is there solely to give me air dominance in the event that I should need it. So we, depending on where you are, I guess, are on a tank only week in the arena, and this is a great sterile environment to test in-field play, and that is with absolute minimal information on this officer. I was able, hang on, this is a defense. I've clicked on the wrong one. Never mind. I guess we'll see what happens with this tank in real time then. So this is the tank here we're interested in. We can see it's not being targeted, and we can see that whatever it is engaging, it is completely and utterly just wiping the floor with. And you can see the splash attacks spilling over into adjacent targets as well. You stick her on a high FP unit, okay? You're just, sorry, Captain America, I didn't intend to use you as the is it this one? Might have been this one because I was attacking. Let's just double check. What you see here, you'll see now. Yes, this is it. This is the one I wanted to show. Now, the reason why I wanted to show this one is you'll notice I took 102 losses, and I still managed to out damage everything in skill on the board, and I managed to unit damage the same as another heli I had, more than the both of my MBTs. And I was on par with both of his helis and both of or her helis. I don't know, however she identifies. And we'll see here that these two helis are not particularly well suited for a tank week either, but it is what it is. So we'll just have a quick look. This again is the tank down here we're looking at. It is the Vanguard MBT, and we'll see that it comes in out on the flank. And it is now obviously under attack, but it is also dealing a lot of damage, and we can see the splash attack happening in real time. And it's not dealing a lot of damage because it is on a tank, but just think to yourself for a second, what if this was on an artillery piece and it was out in the field? Suddenly we're able to really leverage a damage output with this officer because of the amount of skill damage we have. Now, for I don't know how I ended up in rank 25th. So for my setup here, I have obviously gone with the Vanguard MBT, and I've gone for a damage intensity based setup with the two highest damaging officers I could muster onto that tank, one of which having a splash attack, one of which having a staged and escalating skill attack. So we have a very high amount of skill damage being pumped off a very high end FP unit. And that is what I really can't stress enough, is she is designed to go on a high end FP unit. She's not designed to be behind a shield. She's not designed to be a frontline runner unit. She is designed to sit back and engage with prejudice and not have return fire. You could stick her on a light tank and she would absolutely run through. You could stick her on infantry and she'd run through people. I mean, I'm going to test it once next week rolls around and I can use infantry again in the arena. She's going straight on some infantry. She's going on artillery as well, if artillery is available again next week. I think it is. And I'm gonna start getting data through the arena for her to see how well she actually pairs. Now, how would I go about using her? Well, it's pretty simple. She is going to be on an artillery piece, and not this L4 coming, but in the following L4, she will specifically be on a Martyr howitzer. So the way things currently are for me, I don't actually have the ability to run a 7.2 Martyr howitzer. I don't have it unlocked, so I have to go through the process of unlocking it. Which is going to take me 2 L4s as of the start of the following one in this upcoming restricted in about a week and a half. So for the meantime, she is going to be on a standard Liberty howitzer, while I will be using my defensive officers on the RL. And you'll notice that the order has shifted slightly, and I will show you as to why. So again, long-time viewers will have noticed that my order has always been infantry, lib, ATG, and then RL. And you'll notice that I've swapped the RL and the lib around, and then on top of that, I've swapped the officers slightly in their ordering. Now the reason for that is because when I go into base-to-base contact with another player and I want to pop out and attack that base, my infantry up here will exit the base like so, and they will walk up to the base. And then I want my artillery to basically come out like so. And I want her very specifically in the middle. Not because she's going to deal more damage than Isle Vent, but because of how I've set things up. And how I've set things up is the eagle-eyed among you will notice that I have this off the new tank officer, which I'm yet to review. And I think this is absolutely fantastic as a skill if you are into base to base activities. Obviously a lot of people are awakening the officer and slapping her on a super heavy, and that is absolutely perfect. She is exactly what she's designed for. But if you are an infantry player, you too can benefit from her. You simply put her special skill on the artillery, and within 2 map grids of the artillery piece as it's firing, you can get up to 20% bonus damage resistance. Now obviously at the moment it is skill level 1, but that is only at the moment. And rather than go through what other builds we could put her on and officers we could pair her with, we are going to discuss what officers I am going to pair her with. And as you can see at the moment, she is currently with one of my favourite officers of all time, Warrior Wiz. And this is for obvious reasons. He is a fantastic field officer. We get a lot of debuffs, we get a lot of damage intensity, and we also can debuff the enemy target, including their damage resistance, which is technically why we'd normally want him to go first. However, we're not keeping him. He's a good officer. He's very good. But when it comes to base attacks, he doesn't deal a lot of damage. But I'll tell you who does deal a little bit of damage when they're attached to a howitzer. He doesn't deal a lot of damage in comparison to the Ventura I combo, but what he does do is still a lot of damage, and it's range dependent, which is why I want these two paired together on a howitzer. And you can see here I'm at 5.3, 5.4, and I held off awakening this guy knowing that she was coming, and he is now on the list of getting him up to speed. At the moment he is training Eye of Providence, but that is obviously going to change because I'm going to need him in play. I'm just going to need him in order to make the Martyr howitzer that is being planned for this pair. So I'm planning on having Shadow and Frost here. They're going to be on a Martyr howitzer. Why am I putting them on a Martyr howitzer? It is the highest FP unit in the game for ground units. Artillery has the highest amount of FP, and out of the artillery units, the Martyr howitzer has the highest of those. So when we're scaling a lot of skill damage, we want to have as much FP as possible. And this guy does, yes, only deal 1500, but it's 1500 plus 200 plus 200 per map grid. And when you are in base-to-base contact, you're going to be firing at least the +2 map grid. So you're still going to be dealing at least 1900 with him. I mean, in most, I think actually in base-to-base you fire at the maximum range of +3. I can't remember off the top of my head. I'm too excited. But also it means in pop-out attacks with artillery, I do have an additional grid range, which gives me an extra little bit of cycle time, and we do get a lot of bonus intensity off of him as well, specifically for being out in the field as well, and we do bonus damage to tanks as well with him being in the mix. And we can train in bonus damage to fortifications if we want, or we can train in bonus damage to tanks and keep it in theme with being a field artillery piece. I will give you guys an update as to how things are going with my artillery setup once he is awakened and he is in play. And then I'll give another update again with how my artillery setup is going once I have all 3 howitzers in play and I am in base to base. In fact, the update might just be another PvP video. Now, I know this is going on a lot longer than what a lot of my normal officer videos go on for, but I can't really stress quite enough to you guys watching today how seriously important of an officer this is. You've seen what sort of damage I can pull on a tank as a non-tank player. Just let that sink in. I play infantry and I play artillery. I don't play tanks and helicopters. I don't have anything against tanks and helicopters. It's just not my style of play. I've tried it. It's just really not for me. And I think she is good on a tank. There are going to be guys out there who are going to disagree and they're going to say she isn't that good, she's mid, blah, 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 blah. The numbers speak for themselves in the arena. I managed as a complete tank idiot to get her to pump just constant damage on a Vanguard MBT. She needs to go on a Vanguard MBT. Like, I would not put her on any other MBT. She needs to be Vanguard. It needs to be a Liberty howitzer. Sorry, a Martyr howitzer. If you stack her with the right artillery and the right artillery officers, I guarantee you this is going to lead to another Ventura I scenario where there will be a second artillery duo. So when it comes to bases that are particularly difficult, shall we say, to flatten, we're going to have the ability to render them inert at a higher rate. which is good news for me because I'm still stuck with some skanky old officers for my infantry, while you tankers have got yourself quite a lot of love in the last year in terms of officers that can absorb damage and deflect damage. I mean, in this year alone you've had Iron Cavalier, and now you've got Dawn Anthem to boot. So I mean, I'm out of luck. You know, I'm still rolling the old Bloom and Angel combination, and it is starting to show its wear. During the L4 I just played in, I only managed to just cling on to hope. I think within 2 days of the L4 finishing, I was out of reserves, because running attacks on people's bases can be extremely costly when you're using infantry and you don't have an extreme amount of mitigation that you can get with things like a super heavy. So I'd like to see some love personally being shoveled towards the infantry. I'd like to see maybe a replacement for Angel of Light, or maybe a 2000 shield field defense officer to come in, either replace or stand alongside Bloom. Something that we can really, you know, really give it some beans with against another base. But anyway, that was a massive rant as to why she is seriously important. And now at the moment, for a short period of time, yes, you technically you can buy her. I saved up the statues and I dumped them. Now also, full disclosure, I done it as soon as I got out of bed, and I went to the, you know, the scrolly bit where you buy stuff, and I was like, oh, she's available. And then I spent my play points from Google, because obviously I have a subscription to the game, so I generate play points, and I was like, oh, I'll just use my play points to get her unlocked. And I got the statues, and I was like, why isn't she unlocked? And then I was like, oh, it's because I can just get her by destroying bunkers. And then I was like, well, I've wasted some money here, or I've saved some money here further down the line. I don't know. But anyway, I've been the Smoking Cheddar, and you've been very patient, and this has been a very unusually long episode for the Officer Spotlight series. We are going to cover the other two officers next week. I am, however, going to absolutely bang out videos on this chick for the next couple of weeks, because I want to get it across to you guys, the couple of hundred who just keep coming back for more, how good she is. She is going to save your setup, and she's versatile. If you change your setup, it's not going to matter. She's going to be good on whatever you throw her in for. And anyway, there'll be a link to the Discord in the description box down below. As always, you're welcome to join in the conversation or come and play any other video games that I play on there. At the minute, we're playing quite a bit of Lords of the Fallen, and we're also playing Helldivers 2, as always. And you're more than welcome to come and join us. And I think some of the guys on there are playing the Battlefield 6 beta. Ugh. Yeah, no, I'll wait until that goes down to £5 before I invest in that, I think. But yeah, obviously we take the mickey out of each other. You're more than welcome to join in and do exactly that and bully me, or bully Benny, but he hasn't been around in a while. I should probably make sure he's not dead. Oh, drink that water.